Hi everyone, before we dive into the Canary Islands to see how they are preparing for the winter sun peak, just a recap of my experience at Geneva during day one of EES. The entry was smooth, it was about 5 to 10 minutes during registration, but the exit took me about 34 minutes at border control. It was a busy afternoon of departures and there was some big aircraft departing before my flight, so naturally that meant more passengers and a bit more of a queue. But what it did do is give me a bit of an insight into where the potential but not guaranteed bottlenecks could appear. So with the winter sun period coming up, I thought I would do a bit of digging to see what's going on with airports over on the Canaries, what's ready, what equipment is installed, what's uncertain, and I guess what to expect. Now, as we know, the Canary Islands are not a backwater. Even in winter, they get millions of international visitors. And from official Canary Islands research, here are the arrivals from November 24 to March 25. As you can see, it hovers just under or just over 1.5 million visitors per month. And the most visited island is indeed Tenerife. Now that totals about 7.26 million visitors in those 5 months, and going by 2023 stats, which is all I could really find, approximately around a third of that number are British tourists. Now, in terms of the infrastructure, according to a regional article in Canarian Weekly, 306 border control units have been installed across Canary airports, automated kiosks, ABC gates, and interestingly, more manual control desks, which I'll come back to in a short while. So here's how it breaks down by airport. Gran Canaria has installed 34 additional manual desks, 84 kiosks, and 55 automated border control gates. Tenerife South, 31 manual, 84 kiosks, and 48 ABC gates. And as you can see, as we go down the different airports and the different numbers for those three elements. But just because it's installed doesn't necessarily mean they're all switched on. It's not as simple as just plugging the machine in. Activation, staffing, software, training, they all matter for day one performance. Now, a quick tech terminology moment, because this could confuse a lot of people, especially me, which, to be honest, isn't hard to do. So the automated units or kiosks are the self-service machines that register travellers' biometric data, face, fingerprints and passport. The ABC gates or automated border control gates are the gates you walk through after registration using your data to pass through border control. So the kiosks do the enrolment, the gates handle your actual crossing. Now, going back to the manual desk point, if EES is all about automation, why are airports adding more manual control desks? Well, it actually makes a lot of sense if you look a little deeper into it. The new system adds extra steps for non-EU travellers, especially the first time they register their biometrics, like fingerprints and facial scans, for instance. And that doesn't always go smoothly for everyone. Realistically, the automation adds a layer of complexity before it actually reduces it, because after registration, you still need to go and get your passport stamped anyway, all the way up until April. There'll be passengers that need help or whose data doesn't match, plus families with kids under 12, as that age group are exempt, people needing visas, or anyone else who can't use the kiosk for whatever reason. And all of those situations still need a border officer. And following on from that, it's actually really interesting to see what the guys over in the Canary Islands are thinking about this whole process at the moment. And I've pulled this quote from the same article that I referenced earlier from Canaries Weekly. And this comes from Santiago Sese, I believe I pronounced that correctly, who is the president of the Santa Cruz Tenerife Chamber of Commerce. And he stated and warned actually that airports do not currently have the infrastructure or staffing levels needed to manage such a major transition. He cited frequent crowding and long queues, especially at Tenerife South Airport since Brexit, noting that the new system could make an already difficult situation worse and harm the first impression visitors have of our islands? Well, for me, I don't think it would harm my first impression of the islands. I don't think it has anything to do with the people or the island. It is just a process. He then urged the government to invest further in airport upgrades, stressing that our airports are not prepared for the volume of passengers that we're receiving, and warning that the lack of adaptation to the post-Brexit reality risks damaging the Canaries' competitiveness against other tourist destinations such as the Caribbean and the Mediterranean. And I would also add into that now, actually, North Africa. And I actually think that things weren't too bad after Brexit. I think the real issues come since 2020, since we came out of COVID. That's where things have tended to fall down. But it's interesting to hear the Spanish viewpoint on this, of course. So what airports are doing right now is increasing their manual capacity to do the best they can to make sure queues don't back up while everyone gets used to the new system. Think of it a bit like supermarkets when they first introduced the self-checkouts. At the start, you'll still need extra staff on hand to sort out all the unexpected items in baggage area moments. Now here's what I'm not sure of. I couldn't find a public airport or ministry press release explicitly stating that all biometric components will be active at Lanzarote, Tenerife, Gran Canaria and the like on day one. What I do know is, having seen it on YouTube recently, that Fuerteventura still is processing manually, certainly as of this week. And even in airports with all the hardware installed, some kiosks or gates may not be enabled immediately. Again, software, connectivity, staff training will dictate the actual activation itself. We've then got external circumstances outside of the airport, so things like weather, flight delays, which we do seem to get a lot of these days due to busy airspace, peak arrival waves. These will stress the system in the first instance, so I would expect variability. It's not going to be perfect to start with. If you're flying to the Canaries under EES this winter, it's very difficult to say if there's going to be any disruption, if any at all. If there is, it's difficult to say how bad it's going to be. The rollout obviously is going to be an extremely gradual process all the way through till April next year. And at the end of the day, any disruption is only going to be for the first 12 months or so anyway, or at least we hope. For me personally, I think it'd be really interesting to see how package operators deal with the return flights or return journeys, because generally check-in desks in a lot of airports don't open until 2 hours before departure. Not all of those airports have got a self-service bag drop, so you're kind of governed by that time limitation. A coach is going to pick up people earlier than normal to compensate for the potential extra time to get through border control. It'll be interesting to see. So how would I summarise all of this at the moment? Well, I think if you're not part of a package holiday, if you feel you think it may take longer, then probably just allocate that little bit of extra time when you get back to the airport. Having said that, you'll probably get an idea of how it's going to be when you arrive anyway, so potentially you can base it from there. If you're flying to bigger airports like Tenerife or Gran Canaria, for instance, you've seen previously the numbers of kiosks and gates that they've installed. So with that kind of scale, you would hope that the entry process will be pretty smooth. And it goes without saying, have your documents in order. Even though EES automates parts of the process, you're still going to obviously have to go and see the border official after your initial registration. And just be flexible with your expectations. Some border crossings may still use the manual process, or some may use partially operational lanes. In Geneva, I saw a fast entry experience in about 34 minutes, as I say, to get through border control. But in the Canaries, because of this scale and the installed equipment, things could run even smoother depending on that activation. One thing for sure is that there will be as many staff on as possible to help facilitate the flow of passengers. And let me know in the comments below if you've visited any of the islands recently and how the experience was. By doing that, it may help other people who will be able to get an idea of what to expect. I hope you found this update useful. If you did, please do consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for dropping by, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.